Pontiac. The name alone conjures up images of roaring engines and burning rubber. It speaks of a time when America ruled the roads. Big cars, big engines, big attitude. But like a Hollywood starlet past her prime, Pontiac's star eventually faded. It went from being a powerhouse brand to a footnote in automotive history. How did this happen? Well, buckle up, because we're about to take a wild ride through the rise and fall of Pontiac. It's a story filled with triumphs and tragedies, geniuses and, well, some less than genius decisions. We'll meet the men who shaped Pontiac's destiny, from the visionary Bunky Knudsen to the maverick John DeLorean. We'll explore the cars that became legends like the GTO, Firebird and Trans Am. But we'll also delve into the missteps, the cars that should have stayed on the drawing board, and the factors that ultimately led to Pontiac's demise. Fasten your seatbelts, it's going to be a bumpy ride. Pontiac's story begins not with a roar, but with a whimper. Back in 1907, a chap named Edward Murphy founded the Oakland Motor Car Company in, you guessed it, Pontiac, Michigan. Oakland was a decent car company, I suppose, but it lacked a certain something. It was like a cup of lukewarm tea, inoffensive but utterly forgettable. Then, in 1926, General Motors, those titans of the American auto industry, saw an opportunity. They gobbled up Oakland, hoping to tap into a new market segment. GM wanted a car to slot in below their Oldsmobile brand, something to compete with the likes of Dodge and Studebaker. And so, in 1926, the Pontiac brand was born. Named after a famous Ottawa chief, Pontiac was initially marketed as a companion make to Oakland. It was a bit like having a younger, more athletic brother who constantly threatened to steal your thunder. With its sleek design and competitive pricing, Pontiac quickly overshadowed its older sibling Oakland. For years, Pontiac trundled along, never quite finding its footing. It was a decent car, don't get me wrong, but it lacked that certain something. It was like a beige sofa, perfectly functional but about as exciting as watching paint dry. But all that changed in the 1950s, thanks to a man named Simon Bunky Knudsen. Now this wasn't some accountant in a suit. Knudsen was a car guy through and through. He understood what made a car great. He knew it wasn't just about getting from A to B, it was about emotion. It was about excitement. It was about making a statement. Knudsen took over Pontiac in 1956 and immediately set about transforming the brand. He ditched the stodgy designs of the past and replaced them with sleek, modern lines. He introduced powerful new engines, recognizing that Americans had a thirst for horsepower, and he made sure that Pontiac had a distinct personality. He wanted people to see a Pontiac on the road and know instantly that it was something special. Knudsen's vision paid off. Under his leadership, Pontiac sales soared. The brand that was once seen as dull and uninspiring was now the talk of the town. It was the car for the young, the restless, and the ambitious. It was the car that said, "I've arrived." Section 4. The GTO birth of a muscle car king. The 1960s. An era of peace, love, and most importantly, muscle cars. And when it came to muscle cars, Pontiac reigned supreme. It all started in 1964 with a car that would become a legend, the Pontiac GTO. Now, the GTO wasn't some fancy high-priced exotic, it was a wolf in sheep's clothing. It took the humble Pontiac Tempest, stuffed a big, powerful engine under the hood, and let it loose on an unsuspecting public. The result? 0 to 60 in under 7 seconds, a quarter-mile time that would make a Ferrari blush. And a sound that could wake the dead. The GTO was a sensation. It created a whole new category of car, the muscle car, and sparked a horsepower war among American automakers. Suddenly everyone wanted a piece of the action, and leading the charge for Pontiac was a young engineer named John DeLorean. DeLorean was a maverick, a rebel who wasn't afraid to challenge the status quo. He saw the potential in the GTO and pushed it even further, making it faster, louder, and more outrageous. He was the man who gave the GTO its soul, its attitude. He made it more than just a car, he made it an icon. Section 5. Screaming Chicken, Firebird, and Trans Am take flight. The GTO might have been the king of the muscle car era, but Pontiac wasn't done yet. In 1967, they unleashed another legend upon the world, the Firebird. The Firebird was Pontiac's answer to the Ford Mustang and Chevrolet Camaro. It was a sleek, stylish pony car that oozed cool. It was the car for the young and the young at heart. It was the car that made you want to throw your hair back, crank up the radio, and hit the open road. But the Firebird wasn't just about looks. It could back up its stylish design with some serious performance. And no Firebird was more legendary than the Trans Am. With its powerful engine, aggressive styling, and that iconic screaming chicken hood decal, the Trans Am became a symbol of the 1970s. It was the star of countless films and TV shows, most famously Smokey and the Bandit, where Burt Reynolds cemented its status as a cultural icon. The Trans Am was more than just a car, it was a statement, it was a way of life. The Firebird and Trans Am were not just cars, They were legends that defined an era. Section 6. Fiero Fiasco and the Slow Decline. The 1980s were a time of change for the American auto industry. The oil crisis of the 1970s had taken its toll. People were no longer interested in gas-guzzling muscle cars. They wanted smaller, more fuel-efficient vehicles. Unfortunately, Pontiac wasn't quite ready for this change. They tried to adapt, but their efforts were often misguided. Case in point, the Pontiac Fiero. The Fiero was supposed to be Pontiac's answer to the Toyota MR2 and Fiat X1/9. It was a sporty, mid-engined car that promised to be both fun and economical. But the Fiero was a disaster. It was plagued with problems from the start. The engine was underpowered, the handling was questionable, and the build quality was, shall we say, less than stellar. To make matters worse, the Fiero gained a reputation for catching fire. Not exactly the image Pontiac was going for. The Fiero fiasco was a major blow to Pontiac's reputation. It showed that the brand that was once at the forefront of innovation was now struggling to keep up. And it wasn't just the Fiero. Pontiac's other offerings in the 1980s and 1990s were, for the most part, forgettable. They lacked the excitement, the passion, the sheer coolness that had defined Pontiac in its heyday. The brand was slowly losing its way. Section 7. Last gasp. Could Pontiac be saved? By the 2000s, Pontiac was on life support. GM, facing its own financial troubles, was losing patience with its struggling brand. They made a few last-ditch efforts to revive Pontiac, but it was too little, too late. They brought back the GTO in 2004, but it was a pale imitation of the original. It was like trying to recapture the magic of the Beatles with a reunion tour featuring Ringo Starr and a couple of blokes from Liverpool. They also introduced the G8, a rear-wheel drive sedan that was actually quite good, but it was too little, too late. The damage had been done. The 2008 financial crisis was the final nail in Pontiac's coffin. GM, facing bankruptcy, was forced to make some tough decisions. And so, in 2009, they announced that they were discontinuing the Pontiac brand. It was a sad end for a brand that had once been a symbol of American automotive excellence. So could Pontiac have been saved? It's hard to say. Perhaps with better management, a clearer vision, and a bit more luck, Pontiac could have survived. But one thing is for sure, Pontiac left an indelible mark on automotive history. Its legacy lives on in the countless cars it produced, the generations of drivers it inspired, and the memories it created. And that's something worth remembering. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more deep dives into automotive history, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Let us know in the comments what your favorite Pontiac model is, or which car brand we should cover next. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Pontiac may be gone, but its spirit lives on in the hearts of car lovers everywhere. They live on in the roar of an engine, the thrill of the open road, and the passion of those who refuse to forget. See you in the next one.